Permit me to throw another idea at you. Monsters don't need to be species. In classical mythology, a lot of the monsters were unique creatures. There was only one chimera, one minotaur, one cyclops. These were unnatural creatures created by the gods, and it took a great hero in order to defeat them. I would like to encourage DMs to think of their monsters in the same way, and to make many of them unique, one-use only monsters. And I'm talking about monsters even from the Monster Manual, basic D&D monsters. To do so will make your battles more epic, make your storylines more legendary, and at the same time you'll be bypassing a lot of the ecological and biological questions that come up with having so many monsters competing in one territory. Let me give you some examples. I only have one species of dragon in my campaign. The environment, the temperament of the dragon, and the magic around it determines what color it is. There's only one brass dragon. There's only one green dragon. You wouldn't be known for slaying a white dragon in my campaign. You'd be known for slaying the white dragon. Actually, you'd be known for slaying Balor Drakh, Frostworm of the Kurgan Mark. Nobody has killed her yet. Makes these dragons legendary, mythic, all of them. If you run out of monsters, you can easily pull from previous editions. You could use the Chinese dragons from the Fiend Folio. You could use the neutral gem dragons. You could use the Cloud Dragon from the Monster Manual 2. You could use the Dragon from the original Monster Manual, just give it the brass dragon stats, right? For example, one of the things I did is I have a swamp dragon, an evil dragon that lives in a swamp, and its breath weapon is acidic slime. I just used the black dragon stats, but this dragon is dark green. That fact alone will freak out a lot of players. They don't know what to expect, and they have to navigate through this environment of acidic slime pools and shambling mounds that throw acid in order to get to a dragon that they don't know what it's going to do. And as such, they don't know how to prepare for it. There's a lot of edge. That dragon is also still out there. Now, the most legendary dragon that I have was the cat dragon. It was an evil dragon, but I used brass dragon stats, except for I changed its breath weapon to disenchantment. So anything in the area of effect got disenchanted. That was a very epic dragon, very epic battle. The heroes were quite proud of slaying the cat dragon, and his head actually is still mounted on the walls of Carlness Keep 100 years into the later in the campaign. One-time monster, very epic, still remembered. 30 years real time. 30 years ago this happened, and people still talk about it to this day. Now that's just dragons alone. But you can make any monster unique, especially the epic ones, right? There's only one Tarrasque. You can do the same with other creatures. You can have the party fight the Behir, the Morkoth, the Banderharb, the Deathslot, the Froghemoth. Why are there so many evil giant frog monsters in D&D? Anyways, Volo and the Monster Manual alone has hundreds of monsters. You could easily make half of them one-time unique monsters and still supply a campaign for years. But now, just because a monster is a unique encounter doesn't mean that that stat block is a unique encounter. Now this abomination was made by the Mind Flayers. It's a Challenge 3 monster. It has 3 attacks, about 68 hit points, armor class 14. It can shoot spikes from its body. I just used the Manticore stat block. Good, tried and true stat block. All I did was change up the looks of the monster and the name, and poof, instant unique encounter. Now, these monsters could come from anywhere. They could be from evil wizards tampering with nature. They could be from the gods. They could be from an artifact. They could be a hag who just wants an interesting pet.
We do this all the time with supervillains in superhero RPGs, right? They're unique characters with unique origins and unique powers. We should do the same thing with monsters. Now, the Monster Manual lists plenty of possible origins for monsters, and you can have that as the origin. It just happened a few years ago instead of millennia ago.
So here's another example. You could have a group of snake cultists who are being transformed into Yuan-Ti by their high priest. Now, the party would fight cultists and purebloods and brood guards, Malicens throughout the course of the adventure. But the Mind Whisperers, the Nightmare Speaker, the Pitmaster would all be unique monsters. Eventually, the party might find the nursery and realize that this high priest's goal is nothing short than creating a new race of serpent men. Now, if they know of the Yuan-Ti from other campaigns, then they know what's at stake and why this high priest has to be stopped. You've created an entire campaign based around the Yuan-Ti, but you don't have to make room for them in your campaign world once the storyline is done. You want to have some Yuan-Ti in an encounter a little bit later on? Just have a few of those cultists escape, and now they're back looking for revenge. You could do the same thing with the Koatoa, with Tieflings, with Tabaxi, whatever race that you don't want to have completely in your campaign world, but you want to have a little bit of a dabbling of them. You could have a player who gets to play a character of that race, the only player who will ever get to play a member of that race. That is a unique character. Speaking of unique characters, what would happen if an NPC druid was bitten by a werewolf and in desperation turned to diabolical magic to try to break the curse? Part wolf, part devil, part bear, this poor soul might be driven mad and wander into a dungeon to become a monster for the party to fight. What would be the response of that party is after they slayed the monster, he turned into a normal half-elf. Perhaps as he was dying, he would thank the party for freeing him, or apologize, or try to atone for the sins of his past. What if during the fight he bit one of the party members? What was just a basic monster encounter has now become a full story, and one that could be continued, or one that even as that one encounter would still leave the party with an interesting story and something that they would think about and talk about later on. Now, there's tons of stories like this throughout the Monster Manual, but even if you run out of that, there's plenty of other places. You go to old editions, you can go to third-party Monster Manuals. You know, Volo's out there, Mordenkainen has just come out. There's hundreds of monsters that you can do this with. And rest assured, there's plenty of giant evil frog monsters, so you'll never ever run out of them if you need more. Well, that's the extent of my idea. Thank you very much. Happy adventures.